Hey, good day, everybody. Thank you for joining me here at Roots and Reason podcast. I hope everybody's having a good week and doing all right in the midst of all this chaos. I just want to do kind of a short video here, real quick, because caught this bit on YouTube the other day, and I kind of had to laugh. I feel kind of a certain compulsion to kind of comment on this, being as aged as I am. But it was this guy named Asmongold who came across this video that was it was a reply to some older boomer guy basically telling the young zoomer folks to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And the young zoomer Gen Z whatever response to it was just, I ain't gonna lie, it's a little bit hilarious. It's kind of like Groucho Marx kind of position on politics of diagnosing a problem incorrectly and prescribing the wrong medicine to solve the wrong problem, kind of a thing. And let's talk a little bit about this, because it is clearly just it's funny. It just is. So anyway, let me get this pulled up here. This Asmongold guy, I guess he's right wing or something. I don't know, but anyway, let's just go ahead and real quickly hear what he has to say.
This is your karmic reckoning, carefully curated from the moment you abandon the unwritten obligation every next generation has to leave the world in a better place. This is a very, very common sentiment from young people, that they have a huge resentment towards boomers and older people for not relinquishing some degree of control over the economy or not making the economy better for them to grow up into, right? They fucked us, exactly. You stole our jobs, stole our houses, you stole our pensions, you stole our rents, you stole our futures, and you made the world indefinitely worse for us in every single way. Also, you could have a boost to your portfolio and spend historically unprecedented 20 years at the end of your entitled lives sitting on the beach in Florida. You know why millennials and Zoomers don't care about what's happening right now? It's not because we think we'll make up for it later. It's because you've already accepted that we'll never make it up. This is a normal day for us. This has been our reality our entire fucking lives. LMAO. Welcome, enjoy, pull yourselves up by your bootstraps, skip the avocado toast, and print off a few resumes. That's right. That is exactly fucking right. It's crazy to me that people don't understand this.
Okay, well, I don't understand this. So let's go take a look at this real quick. Okay. Here was the original comment for all you MAGA cultists out there. And okay, this is the original comment. And by the way, folks, don't go out there and mess with these people. Just leave it be. This is here for educational purposes. This particular person, you can kind of see where they're going. This is someone with a, what's that affliction called, that the new virus of 2024. It's not 2024, but TDS. So to counter this particular view of somebody, I love this young person's perspective. As she goes on and explain, as we just heard. Now, I'd like to point out a few things here. I stole your job. Wait a minute. Thinking back into the 80s, I was pushing a 36-inch snapper lawnmower at Wednesdays in an apartment complex in Tampa, Florida for $4.15 an hour. In this Florida sun in August, riding to and from the job in the back of a flatbed stateside truck, carrying a cart full of equipment that, yeah, I guess I stole that job. I had no idea, even though you hadn't even been born yet, that you would so covet such a wonderful position. I'm so sorry. I feel bad. I really am. Oh my God, I stole your house. Wait a minute. I grew up in a little 3-bedroom, 1,200 square foot house with these tiny bedrooms with 4 brothers and sisters and a widowed mother who worked 2 jobs. Wow, I didn't realize that was your house. Considering the average size house now is well over 2,000 some odd square feet. We used to refer to them as McMansions. I didn't mean to steal that from you. Hey, I got my shit shack here on the mountain in Tennessee in the middle of nowhere. Carved this farm out of the side of a mountain. Did I steal it from you? For some reason, I remember making monthly payments on this thing. I remember sometimes after the pets were fed and I swapped out some broke down part on my 1990 Jetta that I'd scrape together whatever I could in order to be able to say, all right, I got the rent paid this month. Okay, I got the mortgage taken care of. I didn't realize that was yours. Excuse moi. I stole your pensions. Your pension? I never had a pension. I wasn't even there. Was it Wednesday on the night of the 23rd? I have no clue what you're talking about. Talk to my lawyer. If you find my pension or your pension, let me know. I'd love to know. There was no such thing as a pension in my day. This is the dawn of the 401k. I would throw a couple of dollars if I could afford it into my 401k. And if I was lucky, the company would match a couple percent. Back in those days, if you got 5%, man, you were doing banging. I stole your rent. I stole your future. I stole your future. I suspect that this young person's walking around with a phone that was built by, for all intents and purposes, slave labor in China. Probably cost $1,600. A battery from mined cobalt in Central Africa by underage labor of small kids, not even teenagers. And you're going to lecture me on how I stole your future and made it worse in every way? Man, this is a new deal. I paid $235 for this on Amazon used 4 years ago. I bet you my truck costs less than your phone. I'm to blame. I'm one of them. Or is it maybe not one of them? I infinitely made the world worse for you. Wow. I've spent most of my life living hand to mouth, sometimes working two jobs, scraping by, doing everything I could. My goal in the end of my life is to be able to retire with a little bit of money to buy me a little bass boat so I can go down on the Obi River, Dale Hollow, and go fish with my dog. Uh, wow. I didn't realize we had such thing. Historic, unprecedented 20 years to boost my portfolio. Now you got me there. I do happen to actually have a portfolio. Despite living that tight and hand to mouth, I squirreled money away. Anytime I had a better job, anything excess, I didn't go out and buy a new car. I didn't go out and throw a bunch of money on stuff I didn't need. Have a modest TV, modest car. I squirreled it away. Went to Fidelity. Do I own stocks? Yeah. Guess what? It's kind of my hobby. I figured this is what I'm going to live on for the rest of my life. I spend countless hours going over this dry ass, boring stuff called basically balance sheets for various mining companies and commodities. I want to know what the price of bauxite is. This XYZ company. What about the one in Arizona mining copper? Been in permitting for 26 years. It's a banger once it gets launched, if it ever gets approved. These are the kinds of things that I'm investing the little bit of money that I got. Trust me that I'm telling you that I do not have 5,000 shares of NVIDIA just sitting there collecting. I don't know where you get this distorted view that all boomers are like that. One of these days, I'm going to take my camera and I'm going to drive around and I'm going to show you the reality of what real poverty looks like in Appalachia. Now, I understand maybe you're not referring to all boomers and all Gen Z. Okay. I'm just going to tell you that you shouldn't be blaming the boomers. You should blame the system that we have. My last podcast that I did, or the video that I posted, while it's called Tariff Tantrum, the irony of it is the argument that I put forth, the bigger argument, rambling as I might be, is that the United States has become financialized. It's our number one export, is to export debt to the rest of the world in order for us to have cheap things, to buy the cheap baubles that come from China and Vietnam and Malaysia, India, Mexico. There's a system that's put in place that a small number of people have become benefactors of, whether it's through luck or through work. Some of them did work hard. Jeff Bezos, I don't like that guy. I think he's a total tool, man. He's a jerk. You gotta see how he treats his employees. It sucks. But I'm not going to take away from the fact that he earned what he had. He busted his ass, slept in his garage, worked 18 hours a day. Again, Pareto principle. There's a small number of people who are almost psychotic in their work ethic, and they make it. Elon Musk, you don't have to like that guy, but he wasn't handed that money, and he's not given that. There was a lot of effort and work put into that. And there's a small number of people who do that. There's a little bit larger number of people who realize that there's a bunch of very intelligent, almost psychotic people that happen to be good at niche things and say, hey, take some of my money and help me make some money. Okay? There's a system that was created to be able to do these things that really is hyper focused on the finance in the United States. It's just the way it is. Now, if you want to get at the boomers, don't be bitching at them old people. There's a bunch of them that are poor as shit. And even ones down in Florida, they ain't on a beach. They're living in a trailer park. And, these are the stories of the Florida grandma that's buying dog food for herself because she can't stretch it. That kind of shit's real. Now, you can go after the system that's actually set up this framework that allows this kind of bifurcation in society of between haves and have nots. That, go for it. You're right. I'm with you. Hell, I'll drive you down to the protest. I will stand there with you with a sign. Because here's the irony of it is, it's kind of what Trump is trying to do, and Doge and all of these people. They're trying to change the system that is hyper financialization of the US economy back into something more akin to prior to 1972 in America, where there was a thriving middle class and a thriving working class. Now, you hate the guy that's doing it, so you're willing to shoot the messenger. And the guy that's actually trying to kind of bail you out, I don't know if he's going to be successful. I got a lot of doubts. I'm not sure he is. But it's kind of funny that the one person that's actually trying to kind of restore a kind of a middle class is the one person that everybody can't stand. Anyway, just to give you an idea, we're going to come back to this person here real quick. But let's go over here. I can't, see, I remember the Vietnam anti-war protest at the very tail end, 1975 ish. We were pushing Huey helicopters off the side of an aircraft carrier as we tucked tail and left Vietnam. I remember seeing stuff like this on the news when I was just a little kid. And you can see some of these pictures. Look, black, white, mostly a lot of young people. Bring our boys home. Common sentiment. End the war now. That was it. Respect the 1954 Geneva Convention. War erodes a great society. I agree. Totally agree. Hands off Laos. Boy, that sounds familiar to a recent protest. Maybe this one this weekend. No more dead. Yeah, I can get behind that. I hate war. I think war is just. And look, I'm not a pacifist, and war is necessary when it comes time to defend yourself. But in my lifetime, I haven't really seen a good argument for us to kind of continue with the wars that we have. But that's another subject. Anyway, I can't help but look at this. These are the people of the 60s and the 70s. These are the boomers now. This is them. They used to have phrases like don't trust anybody over 30. Up the man. You used to have Kilroy, the little Kilroy guy was around. Up yours, up the man. Um, One of these photos that I came across that I really liked, which was kind of funny. Let's see if it's on here. I can't miss it. Here we go. We won't fight another rich man's war. There you go. There's your boomers. They all started out just like that person over there on X, going on and on about how my generation destroyed her entire future. Okay? So it's like, all right, I get it. And of course, there was Woodstock. Look, it was peace, love, kumbaya, drop acid, sit on a bus top, love with everybody. I mean, these are the boomers. These are the people that you hate today. And it's kind of ironic that these were the folks, quite literally, that were out there saying, don't trust the government, don't fight a war, burn your draft card, don't trust anybody over 30. They filled entire fields by the thousands and the tens of thousands. Let me go on. Keep in mind, then you go on to Berkeley, and there was a whole free speech movement. And guess what? That was mostly on the left, college students. They're out there going, look, free speech, end of the day. They were willing to go out there and get their heads thumped on by the law enforcement. Thousands. Heck, Kent State, they ended up shooting some. Free speech. Fill the campuses. In fact, there was another interesting one. These photos that came up were the hippies, that generation, that would put flowers into the barrels of the guns of National Guardsmen. I'm not sure if this was the Kent State or if this was Berkeley. This was before my time. But absolutely, this happened. This is where that generation was. So, okay, this one's a little bit prescient. Let's take a look. Yeah, that was kind of a tongue in cheek commentary on that time. But anyway, moving forward, excuse me. This past weekend, we had a hands off protest. And you know what? Fox, sometimes I tell you what, they just drive me absolutely nuts. That was Jesse Waters or someone out there saying, oh, fake. This is all AstroTurf. They bust these people out here. No, they didn't. Are you kidding me? Have these people been paying attention for the past 8 years? I mean, hello. There are millions of people out there who hate Trump so bad that we've actually had to coin a term, Trump derangement syndrome. These people get apoplectic, lose their ever loving minds. Just mention the man's name. They hate him more than life themselves. They're willing to try and delete this guy twice, at least, that we know of. And then, of course, they claim it fake. When the loonies were more on the right, they called it QAnon. Now we got Blue Anon. But anyway, one of the things I couldn't help but notice amongst these boomers, they're all old. Look at them. These protests weren't young people. These weren't some college students out there doing this. These are a bunch of gray haired people one step away from a walker. And it doesn't matter where you go in the country. Look, I can't even find a young person in the photo. Thousands and thousands of people. And, I'm watching this thing, hands off. There we go. Hands off. Hands off what? Government, government. Hands off free speech. Who's trying to curtail free speech? I suppose you could make an argument with the whole bit of Israel's anti-Semitism. Okay, give you that. But Medicaid ain't doing anything. Do you think if they took care of Medicaid or Social Security that any Republican would ever get elected again? Never going to happen. Who's Doge? They're trying to go out there and cut bureaucratic spending. Look at this. It's all Karens. Karens and beta boys. I can't help but laugh. These were the very people who we just went through all these pictures here that are saying don't trust anybody over 30. Don't trust the government. Uh, Live free and peace and harmony. These are the ones that are arguing to we shouldn't abandon Ukraine. We need more war. We should go to war in Iran. Uh, these are people that want to protect the state. They're upset that Doge and the government is trying to cut out some of the bureaucracy to basically lower government spending. The very people that we just looked at all of those things did the exact opposite. And now that these people, okay, Zoomers, you can go make fun of them for that. I find it hilarious. Hands off what? I'm curious to know. Hands off what? Uh, DEI. Well, the thing is, some of this stuff up here, they're not touching. The Trump administration is going after the DEI stuff and ESG and some of this kind of stuff, but they're not going to touch Social Security. You're out of your mind. Same thing with healthcare. Just never going to happen. They know what not to touch if they want to ever get elected again. But anyway, so I'm thinking if an entire generation of people that are famed throughout of all of history, when anybody thinks back the 60s movement, how many countless documentaries are out there? Free speech, free love, all that. And this is where they ended up. They ended up a bunch of, gray haired, blue haired Karens and their kind of tag along, henpecked husbands. And it's hysterical. You can't even take these people serious. I look at this photo and all I can see is a bunch of people might as well hold up a sign say, "Get me the manager." It's hysterical. So let's go back and take a look here for a minute. Let's go back to where we started. This person who's virtue signaling out here about how dare you ruin her future. Apparently, I'm responsible. Me and all my backwater Tennessee Appalachia wealth, I guess. Um, if the people that were willing to go get their heads thumped in Chicago at the Democratic convention by overzealous cops or riots in LA or risk getting arrested and just literally skull thumped with batons by an overzealous police. If those people are the people that are now the gray hair boomers that this person absolutely can't stand, I have to ask myself, what do you think this person's going to turn out? Do you think that when this person is my age, do you think for 1 second they're going to sit here with all of this thing? And I guess they could blame the future forever. They will forever be destitute and just miserable human being. The world's unfair. Damn right it is. It's unfair, everybody. It's arbitrary. A couple people get lucky. It happens. Just because someone got rich because of hard work or someone got rich because they were lucky. What does that make you sit there and just lay in the fetal position, cry, suck your thumb, give up on life? You know, if that's what you expect, I guess buzzards got to eat same as worms. But I guarantee you, I would be willing to bet my whole farm here that when that person is my age, they're going to be just as obnoxious and annoying as all the gray and blue haired Karens that are out there. If they're already virtue signaling, like I said, they own a phone that's mined with, child labor assembled by slave labor just so they can get it cheap enough and just tell the world about how virtuous they are, how evil men are and the boomers are. And it's just kind of hysterical. I can't help but kind of laugh at it. You know, Look, guys, It's not that you Zoomers don't have a point. You absolutely do. But it ain't the individuals that are going out there. There are some rich ones. They earned it. There are some rich ones that got lucky. Yeah. There's also a bunch of poor old people out there. Are you doing anything to help them? How about you guys share rent? There are things that can do other than just sit around and bitch and moan. I would think that your efforts directed at the kind of the system and the framework that created this hyper financialized system that we have all to work under. I've got to live under the same system you do. Apparently, me and all my wealth, all my high dollar stuff over here, my car, my truck that's 20 years, well, it's probably as old as this person, if not older. I don't feel about that bad about that. I don't feel any shame. I remember the stories of my grandparents going through the Great Depression. I remember the stories of my mom telling me one time about never get a 2-story house because then you got to carry laundry up and down. Uh, you don't want a big house because it's more to heat and cool and clean. Makes sense. Uh, this it skews the things that we want. I don't know. I think people should probably kind of try to express things with a little more humility. It's not that hard. You're not losing out on life. The less you got to spend on your overhead, then I think there's a quote that says, I made myself rich by making my wants few. Um, the problem with people that, if you want the stars, but you're not willing to work at it, you're never going to reach it. And in that case, you're going to forever be miserable. But anyway, I just thought we could have a laugh. On one hand, I'm watching, there's a handful of Zoomers out there, and that's certainly not all of them. I've met a good number of them that honestly, I think there's a lot of hope in the Zoomer generation. I don't know, I'm kind of question about the millennials, though. But we can all kind of laugh, have fun with some of the boomers out there, including people like myself and others, because I watched them go from the one thing they hated in the world and they turned into the exact opposite. They became the people that they hated. And now I'm watching another new generation of young people that I get to watch it happen again. Hopefully, I live that long to watch these people go on with the screed and virtue signaling about how much they hate these things to eventually end up in the same spot. You watch. It just happens. This is why people get a little bit more conservative as you get older. It doesn't mean you have to be politically conservative. You become conservative in your thoughts. Save money. You're not in the stock market when you're 60. You better be in something like bonds or T bills, some boring, safe thing that you nibble on for the rest of your life and hopefully get through. Whatever's left after you're dead, the kids get it and they get to fight over it. So there you go. Anyway, I thought we would have some fun. I appreciate you all for stopping by. Be sure to like, subscribe, buy us a coffee. Could really use it. And better yet, leave a comment. That really helps the algorithm out a lot and makes for some good conversations because sometimes I just have to go back and laugh at it. And by the way, in addition to that, the whole video I made the other day told everybody to take a deep breath. What happened today? Markets booming. 1 minute it's Armageddon, the world's all falling apart. Next minute, everybody's going, and the people, they were happy. Hurrah! So take a deep breath, have a good laugh. If you can't laugh at life sometimes, poke fun of it at least. I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, thank you for stopping by. Take care and have a good day.